get shot!
I hit that
Get on
wall.
the ground!
No.
Yeah, we gotta find something.
Sergeant Alfred Flores, officers Eleazar Alejandro and Nathaniel Villalobos. 3 San Antonio police officers were suspended without pay because they killed a 46-year-old woman named Melissa Perez. It all happened when she didn't follow the police's instructions to leave her apartment. Police got a call saying that the woman was cutting wires to a fire alarm system. Officers reached there, and Perez spoke to a fire department official. Then the officer asked her to come over, and she refused.
Hey, lady, get over here.
Perez went back inside her apartment and locked the door. The officers kept talking to Perez through a window in the back patio, asking her to come out. But Perez didn't come out of the house because the officers had no warrant. And then the situation escalated from here.
You're gonna get shot!
One officer attempted to open the window, and Perez threw a glass candle holder at him. Later, she swung a hammer at an officer but missed and hit the window, which broke it. One officer shot at her, but she wasn't hit. However, moments later, Perez moved towards the window again, still holding the hammer, and all 3 officers fired their guns. More than a dozen shots were fired. Perez was hit at least twice and died at the scene. Perez's story was found to be really disappointing. She had schizophrenia, a mental illness. Police wouldn't have shot the person who was already suffering from mental health challenges, but it happened, and it's scary. Perez's children, aged 9 to 24, were feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness after their mother's death. Her whole family struggled with this incident, and they appealed for justice. And the most horrifying fact is, it's not the only case in which a mentally unstable person became a victim. Police use of force has been closely looked at across the country, especially in situations involving people experiencing mental health problems. Daniel Prude died following an interaction with the police, and he wasn't mentally stable. In Virginia, Irvo Otieno passed away after security officers at a state mental health facility held him down on the floor. Furthermore, in California, Miles Hall was shot by police during what his family described as a mental health crisis. Well, what if I told you that a police officer tortured a 75-year-old man in the most unacceptable way? Let me share the complete story. The officer, Nicholas Henning, brutally arrested the 75-year-old man, Clark, and turned himself guilty of a lesser third-degree assault. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail and a $5,000 fine. He also promised he wouldn't work as a police officer in Colorado anymore. Idaho Springs police were responding to a false report from a neighbor about an assault.
He banged on the door, or through the wall. Bam, bam, bam.
When the officers talked to the suspect, who said he was a man in his 70s, he was holding a weapon that looked like a sword with sharp edges on both sides. The Idaho Springs police also described the weapon similarly. After that, officers went to Clark's house. When Clark opened the door, he held a souvenir sword from Hawaii. Even though he put the sword down when the officers asked him to, Henning used a taser on him. It caused Clark to fall and hit his head, and he had to get medical help right away because of the injuries he got. The video was horrible for the Clark family, and it took them 8 weeks to see it. After this incident, Clark was taken to the hospital, and when his family got there, officers and nurses told them that he'd punched a girl next door, and he came after the officers with a machete. But is this a reality? Or was there something else that the police wanted to cover up? But when everyone saw the video, it was clear that Clark complied with all of their orders, except for getting down on the ground.
I hit that
Get on
wall.
the ground!
No.
He was standing in his boxers, trying to explain what was happening, when his neighbors hit the wall.
They hit that wall so hard, I thought they were going to come through the wall.
And instead of listening to him, he had been tased, dragged out, handcuffed. Then, Officer Henning grabbed the sword and threw it in the hallway. And that's not all. Clark also suffered a traumatic brain injury. He had a brain burr surgery, it all where the doctors drilled a burr hole in his skull to relieve the pressure from a brain bleed. Wouldn't have happened if he had not been tased, or would it? Most of the corrupt cops used their powers over the minorities, and that's what happened again. Kyle Erickson was recorded by his body camera putting marijuana in the car of a group of young men. Another video, released only by The Intercept, showed the same officer appearing to plant marijuana during another traffic stop. It raised doubts about the reliability of internal review processes. In both cases, two officers from the 120th Precinct, Kyle Erickson and Elmer Pastran, pulled over cars for minor traffic violations and said they smelled marijuana in the vehicles.
Because the car smells like marijuana, so we're gonna check it, all right?
The body camera footage from both incidents showed the officers searching the cars thoroughly for several minutes but found nothing. In the first incident of Cuyate in February 2018, Erickson's body camera was turned off and then back on, suddenly just as he found a marijuana cigarette, which didn't seem to be there when his partner first searched the car. Cuyate was shouting that Erickson was putting something in his car.
Yo, you were just playing something in my car?
He fought the charges in court, and late last year he began proceedings, intending to sue the city for $1 million. However, Jason Serrano, arrested during the second stop in March 2018, made a plea deal to avoid jail time. He didn't know about any footage's existence until the Legal Aid Society shared it. In the case of Serrano, when these officers confronted him for the marijuana or weed, he told them that he was recovering from abdominal surgery due to a stabbing.
Yo, get off my stomach.
He's got surgery on his stomach, just be careful.
Lifted his clothes to show his wound to Erickson, and explained he could barely move. Once outside the car, the officers insisted on searching Serrano's jacket, but he refused, stating there was nothing in it, and he didn't want to be searched without a valid reason. As Serrano became upset, the officers grew more forceful, grabbing him, pushing him to the ground, and handcuffing him. Serrano lay on the sidewalk, bleeding from his wound, and more officers and people gathered around, waiting for an ambulance. Pastran searched Serrano's jacket. Then, Erickson looked around the front seat where Serrano was sitting, but found nothing. He whispered to himself in frustration before asking Pastran if he should search the whole car. Erickson returned to the car and searched it carefully while Pastran talked to a supervisor who had arrived. Erickson seemed to put something in the car's cup holder and then checked the front seat's console and a small box. He said that he smelled a bit of weed and moved a small piece of marijuana he seemed to have placed there earlier. Erickson checked the back of the car, and when Pastran came over, they exchanged a meaningful look. Erickson said he didn't see anything, and then he searched the front seat area again, this time dropping a larger piece of marijuana in the cup holder and saying there was a little weed. The brief conversation between the two officers during Serrano's arrest was almost the same as what they said during Cuyate's arrest.
Yeah, we gotta find something.
In the first case with Cuyate, he didn't accept the offers from prosecutors to settle the case and kept fighting the charges. During a court hearing, Erickson said the camera stopped working because of a technical problem. But when the body camera footage was shown, the judge stopped the hearing and talked privately with the lawyers. After that, the prosecutors dropped the marijuana charge, and later, they told the police that Erickson might need a lawyer. The judge didn't let the legal aid lawyers talk about the video, and eventually, the case was dismissed and kept private. And that's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the exciting updates.